You open a real estate app just to see what's out there, and 30 minutes later, you're staring at a $500,000 listing thinking, is this normal now? Not a mansion, not luxury, just a basic house with average finishes and a decent area. And somehow, this is considered entry level. Hi, I'm Nick, and today we're breaking down who can actually afford a $500,000 house in 2026. Not who can get approved, but who can buy one without quietly sabotaging the next 10 to 20 years of their life. Because approval is easy, sustainability is rare. Let's reset the way people think about this. The wrong question is, how much will the bank lend me? The right question is, how much house can I carry without turning my entire life into one recurring payment? The median household income in the U.S. is around $84,000. A $500,000 home is roughly 6 times that income. Historically, sustainable housing was closer to 3 times income. We didn't slightly drift from that. We doubled it, and then acted like that was progress. Now let's run clean numbers. 10% down is $50,000 up front. That alone eliminates a massive percentage of buyers. Loan balance, $450,000. At 6 to 7% interest, your principal and interest sit around $2,800 per month. But that's just the loan. Add property taxes, around $500 per month. Insurance, around $300. Maintenance, conservatively $400 to $500 per month averaged over time. PMI, if you didn't put 20% down, another $300. Now you're at roughly $4,400 every single month. That's $52,800 per year in after-tax money just to occupy the structure. Most analyze housing as a monthly payment issue. It's not a payment problem. It's a risk concentration problem. If you earn $160,000 household income, maybe you net about $9,500 per month after taxes and retirement contributions. Subtract $4,400. You're left with about $5,100 for everything else. Cars, insurance, food, utilities, healthcare, subscriptions, travel, kids, emergencies, investing. That margin disappears faster than people expect. But here's the layer almost nobody calculates: opportunity cost. If instead of stretching to $4,400 per month, you chose something at $3,000 per month, that $1,400 difference invested at 7% over 20 years compounds to roughly $730,000. That's not a small trade-off. That's a life-altering amount of capital. So the real question isn't just, can I afford this house? It's, what am I sacrificing to afford this house? Now, let's talk volatility. A $500,000 house assumes stable employment, stable dual income, no layoffs, no major medical events, no regional housing downturn, no spike in taxes, and no insurance shock. That's a long list of assumptions for a 30-year commitment. Most buyers calculate their mortgage using today's salary, but ignore salary risk. What happens if income drops 15%? What if one income disappears for 6 months? What if you want to switch careers? A large mortgage quietly reduces mobility. You become less willing to take calculated risks, less willing to relocate, less willing to accept short-term income dips for long-term upside. The house stops acting like an asset. It starts acting like an anchor. And here's another uncomfortable truth. Appreciation is not guaranteed. Yes, housing trends upward over long periods, but that does not mean your specific property, bought at peak valuation with high interest rates, will outperform other investments over the next decade, especially when a large percentage of your early payments go toward interest, not principal. In the first years of a mortgage, the bank gets paid first. You build equity slowly. Meanwhile, you carry maintenance risk, property tax risk, insurance risk, and market risk. They carry the contract and collect guaranteed interest. Let's talk liquidity. Equity is not cash. It's trapped value. You can't buy groceries with it unless you sell or borrow against your house, which adds more leverage and more risk. Culturally, we've turned homeownership into a moral scoreboard. Renting feels like losing, buying feels like winning. But math doesn't care about narratives. A $500,000 home at $150,000 income might pass underwriting, but underwriting measures default probability, not life quality. There's a massive difference between surviving a mortgage and building wealth with a mortgage. If 45 to 50% of your take-home pay goes to housing, your financial system becomes fragile. Every unexpected expense becomes a threat. HVAC fails? Credit card. Roof leaks? Loan. Medical bill? Delay investing. Here's the psychological effect nobody quantifies. Chronic financial pressure reduces risk tolerance. Reduced risk tolerance reduces growth decisions. Reduced growth decisions limit income expansion. Ironically, the oversized mortgage can restrict the very income growth required to justify it. Zoom out. If your household income is under $140,000 to $150,000, a $500,000 house is not automatically impossible, but it is mathematically aggressive. And aggressive requires buffers. Aggressive requires discipline. Aggressive requires stability. Most households do not have consistent buffers. Here's the uncomfortable truth. In 2026, for many people, the smartest wealth move might be not buying. Not because ownership is bad, but because overpaying relative to income compresses long-term flexibility. And flexibility compounds. The ability to invest consistently, switch careers, relocate for opportunity, survive downturns, avoid high-interest debt. That is real wealth infrastructure. Granite countertops are not wealth infrastructure. I'm not anti-home ownership. I'm anti-overextension disguised as ambition. If buying a $500 house requires betting on future raises, draining emergency savings, cutting retirement contributions, living paycheck to paycheck, and hoping nothing major breaks, you are not upgrading your life. You are concentrating your risk. And concentrated risk without margin is exactly how households collapse during recessions. So here's the final filter. Find the price where you can pay the mortgage, handle maintenance without panic, keep 6 months of expenses in cash, invest 15 to 20% of income, and still enjoy your life occasionally. If that number is $350,000, buy at $350,000. If it's $280,000, buy there. If it means renting another 3 to 5 years, that may be strategy, not failure. Because the real goal is not to own a house. The real goal is financial stability plus growth. And those are not guaranteed by a $500,000 mortgage. The bank calculates whether you will default. You need to calculate whether you will thrive. Those are two completely different equations. And if the math says no, walking away isn't weakness. It's discipline in a market that profits from your emotions.